You're listening to the Golden Heart Wedding Photography Podcast. We're your hosts, Lindsay and Michelle.
Our mission is to connect creatives, learn from one another, and grow together as a community.
In today's episode, we chat to Skillie from the well-known and well-respected Kikitography. We chat about how to tell an emotive story with your photos, finding your style, and so much more. Let's get into the episode.
Hey guys, welcome to our newest episode of our podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. I'm very excited to introduce Skillie to you guys. If you don't know his work, you really have to know his work. He's awesome. His company's name is Kikitography. And I'm just going to start it right off. Skillie, we would just really like to know how you started in the industry and just what you do in your business. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it's my honor to be here. And first of all, I want to congratulate you guys for just taking the plunge and starting a podcast, a wedding photographer podcast here in South Africa. That's awesome. I think a lot of people had the idea before, but just never took the leap. So well done on doing that. And may it be blessed beyond your wildest dreams. And may you start interviewing people from all over the world. That'll be just amazing, and fly the South African flag high. So well done on that. So for me, where it all started out, the first time I picked up a camera was at the age of 14, and it was pretty much one of those Sony CyberShot things. It was my dad's camera, and I just fooled around with it. And he would always be asking me what the hell are you taking photos of? This is weird. And, it's that kind of vibe. But never, as a high school student, I was never had it in my mind that it could be a career. It was just, photography in my mind, in the context where I grew up, and it just was never an option that it would be a career option. It was just a hobby, something you do. You take photos when you go on holiday, and that's pretty much what you do with a camera. And that developed. At the end of the day, I went to university, studied theology, and through that I had a camera. I got my first DSLR camera when at the age of 18, and then I just started taking pictures of all my friends when we hanged out, of bands, and when I went to live music, and that's pretty much where it started. And before I knew it, I was asked to be a second shooter at a wedding, and that was most probably my second wedding in my life that I went to. The first wedding I went to was when I was 10 years old, and I didn't have any idea what weddings looked like since then. And for me, when I started shooting that wedding, I was just focused on, this is cool, I'm going to shoot that. I didn't have any idea in my mind what a wedding program looks like, or what should I be taking photos of. And that's just, and then the people that shot with me was just saying, now, why are you shooting the two little kids playing over there? You should be focusing on the bride here. And but for me, it was just, that's a beautiful thing happening there. Why aren't we photographing that? So that's pretty much where my love for it started. I think straight away I felt something magical in the moment and the excitement that everybody at a wedding day brings to the table. So and that's how it started out. Here I am. It's more than 10 years since that wedding, and I'm just still loving it so much, and I feel like I'm loving it more than ever, to be quite honest. And the last 2 years I was thinking about it earlier today. It's something that I wanted to share. It the pandemic and everything, it paused. It just paused everything for me, and I'm so thankful for that in a way, because we were going on a trend, and everything just went faster and faster and faster, and it was a good time to just reflect again and see, have some introspection of, what do I want my work to look like? What am I happy with the work that I'm currently doing? What do I want to change? And so the weddings that I've shot since last year up until now is just some of my favorite work that I have done, just because I've been able to just pause and think this is what I love. This is what I want to do. So yeah, that's pretty much how it started out.
That's awesome. I love how you said even at your first wedding, you were photographing the kids having a moment where what we would have seen 10 or so years ago as wedding photography would have been like, don't do that. You have to always focus on the bride. And I think that kind of really tells your storytelling and how that's such a key part of your work is storytelling. And I mean, I know you guys, you've branded yourself as that as well. But do you want to talk us through that a bit more and tell us what in your experience sets you apart as a storyteller and how do you tell a good story at a wedding?
Yeah, I think storytelling is it's definitely a skill that anyone can teach themselves. For me specifically, I do think it did come very natural since I've been a kid. I loved reading since I was very small, and just very intrigued with any kind of story. And yeah, I always lived in an imaginational world since I've been a little kid, and seeing the small things. I've always, I think I've been with my head in the clouds since I've been a kid, and just seeing the beautiful things that's happening around me, and imagining up stories with all that I see around me. So I think that's where, for me personally, how it started out, and it just kept on evolving. And then I found studying theology it affirmed my love for storytelling in the way that we dissected the stories and the narratives within the Bible specifically. And that helped me a lot to realize again, oh wow, this story thing is incredible, and the way characters grow and the way characters come together and go apart, and just how all of that works. And yeah, I think very unconsciously that played a big role then when I started shooting weddings. But yeah, for me, I think the most important thing, and I always say this to my clients as well, like the two of them are the main characters of the story, and if it weren't for them, there wouldn't be a wedding. But it would be so dull if we just focused on the two of them. Like everybody that's there celebrating with them had some sort of influence on them, whether it was individually or collectively, and like capturing a friend hugging the groom will just have so much more meaning to the guy. He'll most probably post that photo every year on his friend's birthday saying, yes, you're my mate, you're amazing, I have so many great memories of you, rather than posting a gallery of 10 or 20 couple images of him alone, just standing there looking like a boss, whatever. There's definitely a place for a good portrait, definitely. But the story will just be the longevity of it will just last way longer. Yeah. So that's very important for me when it comes to telling stories at a wedding. And yeah, I think just what makes a good story of a wedding would be just capturing as many moments as possible. There's always something happening. You can never say at a wedding, oh yeah, no, I got the shot, I'm happy. That's just not how I roll. I think I work way too hard, to be quite honest. I never slow down at a wedding. One guy actually once told me I'm like a Duracell bunny at a wedding, because just like I can't not take photos. I'm like seeing these things happening in front of me. Like, why would I just stand there and smile? Yes, that's really cool. That's a nice moment. Like the couple wants to see that, and that's why they hired me. That is why I'm taking photos here. So just a good story will just be filled with a lot of moments. And the moments aren't always the money shots to promote ourselves and all of that. But that's why I started pushing myself a lot to say, because I was saying to myself, You got all these Instagram eye candy shots, but what about the moments, and how am I going to push myself to get a moment in a really good shot photography wise? So that's where my head's currently at, from a technical point of view. Just pushing myself a lot to get the composition and all of that right when I'm shooting moments as well, not just pointing the camera and run and gun. That's pretty much in a nutshell what I would say makes a good wedding story. To just maybe go a little bit further on that, I would say, like, how do you develop your skill as a wedding storyteller? Would be just opening your eyes. I think that's the biggest thing. And when you walk into a wedding, to leave your ego at the door. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how big your brand is, doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram. Those things don't matter at all. The only thing that matters when you step into a wedding is taking photos for the couple, and the people there. If you have to be present. I think in life in general, if you can be present somewhere, you're gonna be able to experience that moment in its most fullest way possible. So yeah, just open your eyes and then you'll be a storyteller. It's as easy as that. Just observe, and try whatever is keeping you from observing. Throw that out the door, and then you'll see the magic happening.
I think you're such a natural storyteller. Like, you really explain yourself so well. It's awesome. And I think for me, when I started out, you were really a very big source of inspiration for me, because I also felt, I think, like a lot of photographers, that I don't want to just get exactly what you said, just photos of the bride and groom. I want, when I look at the full gallery, it must feel like you were at the wedding and like you experienced the whole day with the couple. So yeah, just from me, thank you for really just sharing everywhere that is what you do, and that is an option for photographers. And I just actually also wanted to touch on your style in terms of editing, because I feel that your style, the way that you edit your photos, really enhances the stories that you tell. So I would really love if you could touch on how you just discovered your editing style, and then what pieces of advice you would give to photographers to find a editing style that complements the way that they shoot.
I'm going to touch on the first thing that you said about creating a space for photographers to tell stories, because I think that touches a lot on the style thing as well. It's very important that when you start out as a photographer, is that you should explore many different things. If there's something that I could choose over, if I started out today, I would go second shoot for so many different kinds of photographers. I think just to gain experience, to see what they do, and to go with a mindset of, I just want to observe what these guys are doing, not to say like, this is my style, I want to do it, and just like steal a bit from everyone. And a lot of people will be like, so that's why they don't let people second shoot for them, or they don't give any insights, because they're so scared that they're gonna steal their style or their vibe. But the craziest thing is that it's not true. It won't ever be. No one can be someone else. When I was young, and I compared myself with so many other photographers, and I would beat myself up, saying, I'm not good enough. I will never reach that level of photography. I will never be able to edit like that, or I will never be able to shoot a shot like that. And that's so unfair to yourself by doing that. So when this happened to me about 5 years ago, and I felt like that's when my work propelled into the level that I wanted it to be and going into the right direction, is when I just said to myself, you know what, just shoot it the way you see it. Stop worrying. And at that point, I just unfollowed everything weddings on my personal Instagram, and I didn't look at weddings at all. I just didn't. I started looking at photography that inspired me, whether that was a portraiture or landscapes or whatever, or just listening to music or being out in nature. Whatever inspired me, I felt like this is what I'm going to do, and this will fuel me, because no one can be me. I can share everything with you here, all the tips and all the things that I do, but no one will ever be able to shoot the way I do, because I'm Skillie. Like that's I have this pair of eyes, and the same with you guys. Lindsay will shoot on her own, Michelle will shoot on, and we'll all shoot the same thing, and it will look different. Even if it looks different by a centimeter or a millimeter, whatever, it will be different because we see things different. And I think once you realize that, you'll be able to be free in that regard, and then you will start to develop your own style. I'm not saying like when you decided like, whoa, then it's all dawning on you like, oh wow, I found my style, but that's like the first step of creating your own style and finding your vibe. And because then the more you shoot the stuff the way you see it, then it will just develop into this most beautiful thing. And together with that, once you feel you're free, then you'll be able to look at other photographers' work, or whether it's wedding or whatever the medium is, and to steal a little bit of everything, and then you combine it all into this new beautiful thing. So I wouldn't sit here and say like, I'm the first guy that was telling stories at weddings or whatever. Like that's something that I stole from people from Europe or from America. That's like, I saw that there. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to try that. And I've thrown that onto my own eye, and it's just lenses that you swap the whole time. So yeah, that's the first thing that I would like to touch on, and to say like, shoot the stuff that really makes your heart happy. Like that's the thing. If you feel this beautiful fine art kind of photography is your vibe, with a bit more like overexposedness, and that's that. Like go for that and do it to the best way you possibly can. If you feel moody is your vibe, go for that. And you just do it the best way you can. Learn everything you can about that. Upskill yourself. I think that's very, very important as well. You do a lot of courses, and sometimes you feel like, well, that wasn't worth it, but at least you try to learn something, and there's always something you can take away from a course, or from another photographer, or from a friend, or whatever. So yeah, that's on the shooting style, and pretty much the editing is exactly the same. You're gonna have to play around with what you like. I know it's one of the most daunting things, especially now today when we started out. There wasn't like a lot of presets and stuff like that out there. It was like pretty much one pack that you could buy, and that was that. Like, and the rest you need to figure out. Now it's so overwhelming. I can't even imagine how it must feel. You just, okay, I'm quit my job. I'm going to be a wedding photographer, and all of a sudden you get all these ads, and which one do you buy? Like, where do you start? So it must be so overwhelming. That's why I'm saying the first thing that I would do is go shoot a lot of different things, with a lot of different photographers with different styles, so that you can realize, hey, this is what I like. And if you see something and you're like, yes, I love that, then you start exploring more into that direction with your editing. And yeah, after a while, you'll just feel like, this is my groove. This is what I love to do. And then it becomes small little increments in changes that you create. I've always been a big fan of consistency when it comes to editing. You don't need to mix it up every year or every second year and feel like, oh no, this preset is boring, I want to go for something new. Yes, that happens quite a lot in the first, I think, 3, 4, 5 years that you do weddings, simply because you are trying to figure out what you love. And I've spoken to a lot of photographers when they reach about the year 6 and 7 of shooting weddings. They get so bored with what they do. And I think, yes, it's good to then change things up, but don't throw the baby out with the water. Is that a thing to say in English? I don't know, but in Afrikaans that is. Moenie die baba met die badwater uitgooi nie. Yeah. So yeah, just make small increments, I would say, in changing what you want to do. And with editing, that's something that I can say, don't be scared of the sliders in Lightroom, and of the curves. Like, go and sit, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and you go sit and just move every slider and see what it does. Take it all the way to that side, all the way to the other side, and see what it actually does. And then you will be able to learn, oh, wow, that's cool. I can actually do that. Wow, that's cool. I don't need that much, but I can do a little bit less. So, yeah, just play around with it. I think that's my biggest advice. Be like a kid. Just play around. And once you stop playing and you don't know what to do anymore, then you need to be a bit more of an adult and learn a skill, do an editing workshop or whatever, or a Lightroom workshop if you can't figure it out by playing. But I think we can figure out a lot of stuff by playing and by just not being so overwhelmed and worried about stuff. Yeah.
I love that because it's such a great mindset to editing. I think sometimes we can get so down about how my photo is not looking like this, but just introducing the fun and the childlike aspect of it. It's playing, and what I find sometimes helpful as well is sometimes doing those playing and those experiments on something that's maybe not a client's wedding, but like a test shoot or a couple shoot or something that's a bit lower stakes. Just having the opportunity to play and to develop a bit. But Skillie, I love what you were talking about being inspired and how for you at a certain time you had to actually unplug from following certain photographers and just kind of hone in on yourself and what makes you tick. And I think sometimes it can be quite overwhelming with so many photographers on Instagram and just seeing so much content visually all the time to try and find your own voice and to try and, figure out what you want to do without just copying someone else or, falling into the same train. But I guess my question is, I know for myself, often I find myself needing to be inspired often, and I find go through lulls. And you mentioned you found that this time of lockdown was actually quite a good time for re-inspiring yourself and just getting motivated again. Do you have a go-to inspiration? I mean, you touched on a few of them earlier, but are there some go-to things for you that inspire you for your work?
Yes, I think it's very important that you figure out, and I think we all know what it is. The one thing that you do that you really love, and that is not necessarily something that makes you money. It should be something that just brings you joy. We all have that one thing, but sometimes it's not enough to spark the inspiration. It will definitely help, but it won't be the only thing. So I do think it's a combination of things. So for me personally, I love playing guitar and singing. That's one of my biggest passions. And I've neglected it for a very long time in my life. When lockdown happened, I picked up my guitar again and I played it, and it was really nice. So I've rekindled my love and my joy for that. And so that definitely helps me. I think inspiration do come from a place when you can plug in with yourself, when you can connect with yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. For me specifically, and I think that's what happened as well, for the first time in my life, I've started exercising vigorously. Every morning I exercise, and after that I meditate. And I've been doing that consistently for 2.5 years now. And that's changed my mind completely. I can't see myself not doing that anymore, because when I do that, it just helps me. Your brain feels alive. It doesn't feel like in the mid-morning that, I feel overwhelmed and I don't know what to do and I can't look at my screen. It just helps me it's like this chemical reaction happening in your brain when you do those things. And to just, like breathing, I started breathing, which is so ridiculous because we're supposed to be doing that every day, but to just every now and then focus like, hey, I'm breathing, or just focus a bit more on the breath. And it just helps my brain to relax. And when you're relaxed, you can see and you can observe. That's been a big source of inspiration for me over the past 2 years, is exercise and meditation. I think also spending quality time with your loved ones is very, very important. You can't be so focused on work and trying to figure out how I'm going to be inspired the whole time. Sometimes you're not inspired and you just have to sit on your ass and work. And that's, I think, a big problem with a lot of creative people. We like, when am I going to be in the zone? When am I going to get this flash of inspiration to hit me? But sometimes it just doesn't happen. And we think we're so different than the 8 to 5ers, but actually we're not, they're also not like feeling it the whole time. We just sometimes have to work. But yeah, like I said, I think it's a big influx. Mengelmoes, that's a good word in Afrikaans, of throwing things together, and then you end up being inspired in some way or another. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. So yeah, like I touched on the family thing. My kids really, really inspire me a lot. To see how they see the world, and to follow them around. So, and I honestly try my best to make time to, when it's time to work, I work and I finish my work. And when it's time to spend time with them, I try and be present 100% with them. It's really hard. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but when I'm there, you get down on their level and you just see how they play, and that's so inspiring. Since they've been little, I would always point out to them, oh, look at the beautiful clouds, look at the colors there, or look at those leaves. And I would try and teach them about the small things in life. And it's been so awesome to see in moments where my mind is so busy and stressed, and we would be on a walk, and one of the kids would come up to me with these two beautiful autumn leaves with the red colors, and then they would get my oldest, she would get lyrical about it. She was like, look at the red on this, and there's this yellow line in here. And I find that so inspiring when someone else shares that joy of the little things. So that's something that really inspires me a lot. And dancing with them and singing with them, that's always been just one of my biggest inspirations, is my kids. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to touch on something you said earlier about sometimes as photographers we get into these slumps and we feel uninspired, but we need to carry on, and we're running a business, so we have to push through. And something else you said as well about just how your exercise is kind of, you're learning to breathe, you're learning to pause. And I think those are all vital skills in learning to push through and learning to power on when you're not feeling motivated. But I wanted to ask, have you ever gone to a wedding or had to start a job where you weren't feeling it, or in the middle of the day, maybe it's pouring with rain and you feel overwhelmed? How do you get through that? How do you push through and pull it together, act professional?
Yeah, well, I think that comes with a strong mindset. Hey, like I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not overwhelmed, or that that I don't have off days. Definitely not. I've certainly been at weddings, and this has happened over the last 2 or 3, 4 years. That's the years that I said that I felt like I've been most focused and like I know exactly what I want to do. And there's been a lot of times that I felt like, oh, I'm not like, you're not hitting that groove, Sometimes it just happens, and then you got to like grind it out. For me personally, I just pep talk myself. I'm like, if I would take like 20 shots and it's just not happening. I'm not feeling my composition. I'm not feeling the moment. I don't feel present. I pep talk myself in my head the whole time. And I think that's one of the scariest things of being a wedding photographer. You have to juggle so many things, because you can't let down your guard and show people that you're overwhelmed, because then they're going to be like, oh shit, he's going to screw up my pictures. So I've said this many times at my workshops as well. When you feel that in that moment, especially when you're starting out, it's difficult to hide those emotions. It's easy to show the overwhelmedness on the outside. So what I would say then is head outside of the room where you're busy and just say, I'm just quickly going to swap a memory card. And you walk outside and take a deep breath and say to yourself, it's okay. It's okay. Just try again. Go again. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Just try again. And the more you do that, the more it will become a natural thing to calm yourself down within the moment as well. Like, I've been in rooms where it's chaos. It's absolute chaos, and people aren't listening to each other. It's just loud, and everything's late, and you feel this overwhelmedness within you, and your shot's not happening. You don't feel inspired. And somehow you just have to keep on clicking. So I think the most important thing there is to rely on your instinct and not overthink it then. So I rely on my instinct and on my experience there. And I just let that take me on the ride. And somewhere I feel I get the groove again. So yeah, just pep talk yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. And you touched on it, Lindsay, that you said, like, you have to find something in life that truly teaches you resilience. I think it's one of the most important skills we need to teach ourselves is resilience, because it will help you in every single field of your life. And I think I've always been a resilient character, but I'm going to touch on this again, but exercising taught me so much about that. When you feel like you can't go on anymore, you have so much left within you. Then and whatever happens in your life, you're just like, no man, you can do this. You can go on. You can do this.
Yeah.
And yes, that's very tiring. Then at the end of the day, I don't think people realize that at the end of a wedding day, how much you actually gave of yourself to get the shot. You just go at it, you just give and you just give and you just give. But we've all got limits. We're humans. We're not robots. I think that's very important to be sure that you have a good support system and to do stuff outside of weddings as well, and to not just always be busy with wedding talk. Just be a normal human sometimes as well. And also not being scared of looking after your own mental health. Go for therapy. Therapy is not just for sick people. I think that's very important that people should realize that. Look after your own mental health, just to be able to talk to someone about it. Maybe the shooting weddings or dealing with people is really hard for you, and you are so tired, but you don't know what should I do with this tiredness that I'm feeling, and I don't know how to deal with this. This is not a good. I don't feel this is a skill that comes naturally for me. Speak to someone about that and just let it out. I think it's very important to let it out rather than shooting weddings for 5 years and you have a mental breakdown after a while because you just kept it all inside. This is your job. It's not just a hobby. Like, you have to look after yourself if you want to do this for a long time and if you really love it. I think that's why a lot of people after 3 or 4 years just crash out because the pressure's too much. It's one of the highest pressure jobs in the world because week in, week out, you have to deal with so much on a day. And even now for me, after, I think it comes naturally. I don't overthink it all, but the pressure is still coming at me. And I have to somehow just after a wedding, even if it went brilliantly, remember, it becomes muscle memory for you dealing with these things. It's like I said, it's still coming at you and you have to deal with that effect on your body as well. Yeah, I think I took a wild turn now, but yeah, it's something that I feel is important to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's very important. And I think it's also, I think we need to change the mindset as a community in, especially South Africa, or in the world, I guess, in general. But there's this mentality that if you're busy, you're important. And if you're overbooked and you're too busy to breathe, then, you're doing really well and your business is doing really well. But I think there's a time for everything. But I think balance is also very important. And I've seen a lot of photographers moving to that, where they're capping their bookings at a certain amount a year, and I think it takes discipline to do that as well, because obviously there's going to be a financial loss, but you're weighing up your pros and cons, and you're seeing what is really important here.
Yes, definitely. I have the utmost respect for people doing that. I haven't found the courage yet to go down that route, but definitely something that I would look at after 2 years of the pandemic. Let's see how it goes. Very important to find that balance. Your own capacity. If you feel like at 10 weddings, I'm going to clutch out, then you should only be doing 10 weddings, because it's unfair towards yourself and towards the couples after that. If it's 20, if it's 30, if it's 40, if you can handle 40 weddings a year, do it, but be sure that you can actually handle it.
Yeah, I really like what you said there. I think, I feel like in our world, it is very common that if you work hard, you are inspirational and it's so great. And if you're busy, you're the best, where that is actually the opposite of what it is. It is literally whatever you can handle, you should do. And if you can't, you shouldn't have to do it. And I actually just wanted to circle back to more of the shooting part of just how you shoot. One thing that I've noticed about your work is your composition. And you also touched on this when we were speaking about the burnout. Just that you aren't feeling the composition. And I think that just shows that you're so intentional about how you compose images. And I wanted to actually ask you, just how do you choose which lenses to use, and just kind of go into how you compose photos, because I feel that that is one thing that is so unique to your style and how you do it.
When I became bored with my work, which was about 5 or 6 years in, I started looking at street photographers a lot. And that's where my love for the composition started. I was thinking how I looked at page 3 books. I bought myself some random photography books with street photography, and followed all the street things on Instagram that I could find, and actually went for a few street walks just on my own, just like trying weird composition. And at that stage, I also said to myself, I want to shoot every day. I want to take a photo every day. I don't just want to take out my camera and my bag on a Saturday when I go shoot. I'm a photographer. This is what I do. I want to hone my skill the whole time. So I would shoot everything the whole time and see light as well. It doesn't matter what you do in life. Look for the light the whole time. See how the light falls on your morning cup of coffee. See how the light comes through the window. And walk towards it and say oh, look at this. This is how the light changes on my hand. Oh, well, that's beautiful. Oh, look at that side lighting. I could do a great portrait there. Just so that your mind keeps on seeing these things, so that when you walk into a room, you know exactly where the light's going to be, because the moments happen like that. And then you need to be like, that's the first thing I should be able to see. You're a photographer. You should need to be able to see the light. Composition wise, then I just started playing around with that. And even when I don't have a camera in my hand, I would be thinking okay, what would I like to have in this frame? I went back to the 2/3 rule, and how do I nail the 2/3 rule? How do I break the 2/3 rule in a correct way? What I would do afterwards, I get back home from a wedding and I look at my photos, and I look at them intentionally and not just for the moment. I look at the composition, and I said to myself, okay, cool. This is a great shot. No one else is gonna notice what I don't like about it. But next time when you're shooting a bride in that setting, 3 centimeters down, I do think it comes over time. The more you do it, the better you will get at it. I'm still not 100% happy with what I do, and I don't think you should ever be happy with your style or with your quality of work. You should always be pushing, even if it's small increments. So I just intentionally, at a wedding, while I'm shooting that, I look at it and I say, remember what you said when you looked at the previous images on your screen. Are you happy with this? Look at it, 2-3 centimeters. And these things happen in split seconds, obviously, as it's going on. But yeah, so I just looked at a lot of composition orientated photography. to get better at that. And I just practice the whole time. That's that age-old boring saying, like the more you practice, the luckier you get. So that's what I can say on the composition. And I do feel a lot on composition. You can get a beautiful moment, and I touched on this earlier. And if a shot is well composed, and the subject is in the right spot of the picture, then the emotion that's in that shot will just speak way louder to you. I'm not scared to follow the people in the industry now anymore. I do that because I want to support them. I'm not in a place anymore where I feel overwhelmed or competitive with other people. And sometimes I see, we have some really talented people in this country, but what I see a lot is incredible moments. I'm like, that person was there, that caught the moment. I would have just like moved it a tad like that, and then it would have been wow. Like that would have been a mind-blowing image if they just worked on their composition a bit. So I think it's something we let our guard down on a lot. So if you can combine those two, if you can nail your composition and the moment together, that's the recipe for a magical image.
I love what you said about the composition and how sometimes a moment or a photo is let down because of a beautiful moment but a not so great composition. And I wondered, how often when you're shooting do you see a spot? I know for myself, I've seen moments in a room, or you see a reflection in a mirror and you're like, if there was a beautiful moment there, like how great would that be? And you almost have that in your mind, and you kind of sit there for a bit hoping something cool is going to happen in the corner of your eye. Yeah. Do you have moments like that at weddings, or how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, definitely. There's always, from an artistic point of view, there will be 2 or 3 spots in a room where you walk in there and you're like, damn, that would be great. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But to touch on that, there's different styles of storytelling and documenting a wedding. The first approach would be like, I'm a fly on the wall. I don't say anything. I just shoot it as it happens. And the other style is, which I lean a bit more towards, is to be a director, and not like setting up a fake moment, but to just move your subjects into the setting where you want to be. Like, for example, when the bride and the bridesmaids and the mom's going to get dressed, there's going to be beautiful moments. And then, you won't necessarily get a natural moment in that mirror reflection that you see there. But when before they get dressed, you can call the shot there, and you can say, just move in this vicinity when you're getting dressed. And you can turn the bride towards the light and say, just let your face the window the whole time, and work from there. And after that, you leave it. Don't be like the whole time, now move around, because then I feel the bride gets overwhelmed. But that's just once again, it's my opinion. Then you have a subject in beautiful light, and you can just shoot it as it happens. So you do have a sense of control over it, if you're smart about it, and then you can get those beautiful artistic shots in the nice light.
Yeah, I think that's really good that you still are a storyteller even though you direct them. So you just find the perfect spot and then position them where the story unfolds. So I really love that. And then I actually wanted to ask you, what gear do you use on a wedding day? Just what lenses are your go-to, and just kind of how do you use them to create the shots?
Ask me that. My favorite is a 35mm. So I'm pretty much on my 35 the whole day. And I'm not, I think that's the one thing that people are scared about, is to get too close. They worry that they're gonna impose or make people feel awkward. But that's for me specifically. I overcompensate with my way of being, so that they can be comfortable with me in the room, so that I can get as close as possible. And I'm not saying like linger around the whole time with the 35 in their face. I love being on the 35 because I'm wide enough to capture the whole story in the room. It's just such a versatile lens for me to use. Where if I'm on a 50, I feel constrained. Doesn't matter even if it's a big room. I know a lot of people love their 50s, and it's always there. I'll take a 50 out if I set up a portrait or something, or in a ceremony or in the reception, depending on the size of the place. But like specifically in a room where people are getting ready, or on a couple shoot, I'll just be on my 35 the whole time, and I zoom with my feet. I just love that so much. Oh, and then I have a 16-35, which I fell in love with all over again. I've had it in my bag for so long and never really used it properly. I only use it for when I shoot the party. And then, when storytelling became more of an importance for me, like I felt like I need to capture the place where this is happening. Then the 16-35 just became a love for me. And to be quite honest, I found myself having it more on my camera a lot, starting to happen where I have like 50% of the day I have it on my camera. So because it does have a 35 more on it as well, that's becoming my favorite lens. I don't like saying that to myself, but yeah, it is happening.
I think that is so awesome. I've noticed a lot of really wide shots on just your work, and I think it's awesome. I think we are so caught up in, we should all shoot 35 or 50 or 85, where 16-35 looks incredible, and I can really see the storytelling in that. So yeah, that's awesome. And I wanted to move on to the next segment of our podcast. So we have a recurring little segment where we want to talk about one of your photos specifically. So I would really love if you could just expand the gram on your photo, tell us the story behind it, and just how it happened.
Great. First of all, love the wordplay, love a good dad joke. So I think you should have a dad joke section as well. So that image I took on a recent trip to the Big Falls, which has honestly been one of my favorite weddings that I've shot thus far in my career. And it was just a combination of everything. The people were absolutely incredible. So hospitable and friendly and loving, and it was just incredible. I didn't feel like I worked there. I felt like I've known them my whole life. I was there like 2 days before, and we scouted out that spot. It was on the river, like right next to the Zambezi River, and in a nature reserve. It was so crazy when we went for the ceremony rehearsal. So rangers were there, like watching out for the elephants and the hippos. Like they literally stood there with their guns protecting the people. So I was like, oh my gosh, like we could literally die here, So, but it sort of gives them, maybe that's just like, I just have my sense of adventure, just me being a guy, like, oh, this is exciting, we could die here. So yeah, that was amazing. And then after the rehearsal, we got on this little boat, literally just a small little boat. It was me and Pierre and the videographer, and a guy that just knows the Zambezi very well. So he's just taking us around, cruising us out. Just say, if you want to stop somewhere. And then I saw that tree, and I was just like, I have to shoot here. But so it looks like it's a big piece of land and the trees there and the water all around it, but it's not. So it's literally just the tree, and then there's enough space next to the tree where people can stand, and then the rest is all water around it. So
That's awesome.
the Zambezi is full of crazy big crocodiles. So we knew like this could be and hippos. While I was standing, I was waiting for the bride to arrive. Now I'm all on my own behind a bush, and I just hear the sound of a hippo, and I just like, oh dear God, no, I'm not gonna be killed by a hippo right now. And I like gave 2 steps back, and I looked behind the bush, and about 50 meters into the water, I see this hippo just chilling there, looking at me, and I'm just started very slowly walking back towards the vehicles. And so, knowing all of this, we still chose to shoot there. So we took the bride and the groom to the spot, and I said to them, listen guys, this is going to look amazing. I just overcompensated with how amazing it's going to look. And I didn't know if the crocodiles were going to eat them. But if the crocodiles did get them, it would have been an even better shot. Then we put them down there and went around the island. I got off on another little small island, so it could have just as well eaten me. And it was just when I crouched down there, I like literally laid on my tummy with my hand stretched out over the water, so not being able to see what's underneath the water, but I just felt like I have to get the shot. This is just so amazing. It's beautiful. When I got to that tree the previous day, I saw exactly what I saw there. I was just like, it's going to be better. And on the day, the lighting was just even better on the tree. It doesn't always happen.
Awesome.
So that was an exciting one for me. And when we got back onto the boat, the bride comes walking out. I've got a shot like that as well. Maybe I'll send it to you. And her face is just like, okay, it'd be great if we can get on the boat before the crocodiles eat us. That was incredible. It's really such a. I'll always remember that.
So we normally end our podcast asking our guests one question they wish they knew, or one thing they wish they could tell their younger photographer self. But I feel like you've already answered that in a previous question. So I think it's only fitting if we ask you to end with one good dad joke.
You're putting me solidly on the spot now with it normally just comes naturally for me. That's what she said. I can do that. I don't know.
That's what she said. There you go. We've been watching The Office again, and so I have a huge respect for that.
But
awesome.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you so much for joining us. You shared a lot of good stuff, and I think our listeners are going to be very, very full and knowledgeable after that. So thank you.
Yeah, please tell our viewers and listeners just where they can find you so that they can go check out your awesome work.
Cool. The best place to find me and connect with me would be on Instagram at Kikitography, KIKITOGRAPHY. And then the website, www.kikitography.com. And I would love to connect with fellow photographers. And if you ever feel like you're burning out, speak to me. I'm always willing to help photographers in whatever way. So connect with me.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Gold and Heart Wedding Photography Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all our future podcasts.
You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram as the Gold and Heart Podcast. Thanks for joining. Bye.